Andrews. I'm the Executive Director of the U.S. Green Building Council Missouri Gateway Chapter, and we host these coffee breaks as a quick way for folks to learn something new and maybe connect with their fellow green building professionals. So we're glad to have you all here and welcome you to get more involved with what we have going on with the U.S. Green Building Council Missouri Gateway Chapter. I'm happy to introduce our speakers, Lisa Johnson and Abigail Sirvag. They're both from Edward Jones. We're going to talk about the UN Sustainable Development Goals and how Edward Jones has been incorporating those into their business practices, philanthropy, culture, and corporate goal setting, which I think is really exciting. And just quick intros to Lisa and Abigail. Lisa is a senior sustainability project leader at Edward Jones and has joined Edward Jones in 2006, and she's been responsible for construction administration of large and new construction projects. And has spent the last 11 years working on the firm's environmental sustainability efforts. She's also on the board of St. Louis Earth Day, so committed to sustainability both personally and professionally. Abigail is a sustainability project leader at Edward Jones, and she has been working on the advancement of sustainability through her entire career, focusing on interior design and corporate social responsibility. At Edward Jones, she's been working to drive their environmental sustainability strategy and change. And she is also on the USGBC board and our education committee. So we're glad to have her here. I'll turn it over to the two of you.
Thanks, Emily. Thanks for having us. We appreciate this opportunity. This is a show we would like to take on the road with others as well. So, as Emily said, I'm Lisa Johnson, and you certainly already know Abigail. And we are part of a new purpose activation and community impact team at Edward Jones. And we're responsible for sustainability in more than just environmental, but social and economic as well. We are in the midst of our centennial celebration, and while we are simultaneously planning the trajectory for our next 100 years of impact. Oh, went too far. Sorry about that. Did you rearrange it, Abigail?
I did not, but
It skipped.
Hilarious.
It skipped it, sorry. It skipped right over. It's skipping it, right? So
we'll just go back. You can just do the smaller format for this.
Yeah. I'm like, wait a minute. Yeah, here we go. Sorry about that. And as we work on our next 100 years of impact, what that will look like is amplifying our purpose. And we've defined our purpose as partnering for positive impact to improve the lives of our clients and colleagues and together better our communities and society. But it will be through the outer ring, these three areas of impact, partnering for lasting financial strength, promoting healthier futures, and advancing inclusive growth, which we've also mapped to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals.
So yeah, we wanted to show you today kind of how we approach this project, and it's these 17 goals I'm sure most of you have seen. If not, these are the 17 Sustainable Development Goals formulated by the United Nations in 2015 to help end poverty, fight inequality and injustice, and also protect the planet. They really proposed it as a framework for action to help folks align their efforts. And a big part of that is businesses and how can businesses impact these goals. So they also show a lot of interconnectivity and how we can all shape the future. So we used the UN goals, originally Edward Jones, because they are a universal framework. So there's a lot of companies that report using these 17 goals. Also, it's a good way to quantify your impact and show how you kind of roll up to each individual goal. And, you know, there are 17 goals, right? You can't spread yourself too thin. You know, we tried to go through a process to align to the goals that best represented our purpose and tied to our work at the firm. You know, if even the UN recommends if you try to work towards all 17, you know, you can't do as much impact because there's just so many resources and such. So we try to narrow it down through some processes that Lisa and I went through and trying to really see where the most meaningful impact occurs. So we worked to hone in on those goals through the firm's work. And Lisa, I'll let you change the slide. So how did we do this? So if you just look at the 17 goals, they are kind of daunting, right? So they're a huge batch of work, a lot of literature, things happening with those goals. You know, thinking about a global scale and how it relates to your business can be a little intimidating. So some of these tools listed here are put out by the UN Global Compact, it's called, and it's an organization, a subset of the UN that helps with businesses tying to the SDGs and how you can report on those and actually make them practical and feasible for your company. So these are just a few listed here that we looked at. A lot of pages of literature to read. Also, the SDG Action Manager, you can see the logo there, is a good questionnaire to help and to hone in on what SDGs your company might already be working on, where you can improve, and it helps you with strategies and identifying how far along you are in some of reporting towards some of the impact in any of those SDGs, the 17. So in all of these different papers, there are also some other websites, but really we started looking at the business themes in each of those 17 goals. Also, a lot of these papers list indicators and metrics that you can apply to your business. So Lisa and I tried to narrow that down to really hone in on what was specifically pertinent for Edward Jones, and that's something any of your companies could do as well, you know, in reference to your own culture and purpose and your goals for your company. So they are quite lofty, but they, you know, we need to narrow those and provide data also to measure. So that's another thing. You know, you can only work on what's measurable. So really thinking about what data you might already have and also what you could get and where that impact can be measured.
Yeah. And that SDG Action Manager, I think, is a really good place to start. It gives you, it helps you do research because you think you know about your company until you start digging into that Action Manager, and it really causes you to have to do some research for your company to figure out what you're even where you even stand at the moment. So.
And so this is our product as of today. This is in our latest purpose and inclusion report from Edward Jones. So we ended up with 6 SDGs, and you can see the different numbers around the circle here. So number 4, quality education. Number 8, decent work and economic growth. The other thing we did was tie those to our purpose focus areas, which you can see Lisa pointing to. So for example, partnering for lasting financial strength, goals 4 and 8 roll into that. And then from there, we tried to include our current philanthropic initiatives in the circle, the outer circle. And this is just what exists today, right? We're going to keep building on this. It's definitely a journey with the UN SDGs. There's a lot of things to dive into. Eventually, Lisa and I would love to be able to tie back a lot of initiatives at Edward Jones to these goals so we can see how that impact rolls up. But keep going around the circle. You can see goals 3 and 13, good health and well-being and climate action, and then finally goals 10 and 11. So from those 17, we tried to narrow it down to these 6 and really use these 6 as our framework for our corporate reporting, and tying into our measures and indicators for our corporate sustainability work. So there's a lot more depth here, but we wanted to give just a brief overview, today in the coffee break, and how we're trying to tie these together. So we'd love to open it up for any questions or comments if you have anything.
And I would say real quick that Abigail and I had done the research on the goals independently of these purpose impact areas. And when we settled on these 6 and they asked us to, that's when we were made aware of these impact areas. And it just so, it worked out so that it just so happened to work out that the 6 that we chose were pretty good direct ties to those areas of impact that Edward Jones was working toward. So.
Yep, good point.
Any questions?
Well,
That's
Lisa,
amazing.
Abigail, thanks so much for your presentation. This is really interesting. Anybody have questions they want to throw out there?
And I guess the only thing I would say is, we probably, Lisa and I kind of stared at all this for a long time, like maybe it did 3 weeks, like where do we start, right? And if you just start somewhere, that helps. So, just looking at the UN website or reading one of those white papers, just something to get the ball rolling, because it is really intimidating to try to get to this point. So, and granted, this process probably took us about a year. So that's another thing. It's not a quick thing, especially in a very large corporate culture like Edward Jones. So a lot of buy-in and review and different folks looking at it. So depending on your company, it could take a different amount of time, but as long as you're able to map things back and forth, that's what we wanted to do.
Yeah, because the reporting aspect of it, right? When you think about having to report out, an outward facing report, we wanted to make sure that, the sustainability community could understand, right? Because corporations tend to have their own, baby language, and no one outside of that company gets the point. So to have these goals to include in our reports makes it relatable to the sustainability community outside of Edward Jones.
Lisa, would you mind moving that black box over just a wee bit so we can see the top ink and red?
This one?
Yeah, that'd be great.
There you go.
Perfect.
Yeah, as Abigail said, these are our current. These are efforts that were already in flight, and they were more, the philanthropic efforts that we had going on, and now we're getting more into the challenges that these 6 goals actually address, right? So from a corporate perspective, and the SEC ruling is out there now, so companies, and I don't know if it hasn't been confirmed, but if this becomes the ruling, right, everybody, I don't know about everybody, but their companies will need to report on their, is it GRI, Abigail, that they're GRI reporting?
Yeah, TCFD is the other one that they're looking at for the SEC as well, to quantify climate impacts. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have a question. Just I'm curious how others at Edward Jones that aren't necessarily engaged in sustainability work on a day-to-day basis kind of respond to this, or have you shared it, or like what's been the the kind of rollout internally?
Well, yeah. Well, so this again was in our last report out. It was out in, was it March of this
It
year?
was this past March, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so it was shared with clients and the general public. But we're in the process now of working with cross-functional teams within the firm to find out the efforts and initiatives that they're working on and how they can map to these purpose impact areas in the center, as well as tying the work to these goals. And some of them will be more pertinent than others, but because we got the managing partner's office to approve it, and the executive committee gave us the green light, then it's prioritized. That was our initial goal, right? Is to get this prioritized. And that is what has taken us so long, and so many meetings and so many conversations and so many iterations of efforts to to get here. But some are on board. Others are wondering why we have to address, societal issues. But we've framed it that, such that Edward Jones and our footprint, we sit in these communities all across the country.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think you can have that presence and not be concerned about these issues in those communities, right? So, and the executive committee and the managing partner's office agreed. So,
Also
like
with the
sorry.
sorry, I was just going to add too, with trying to get some associates on board as well. We have a new green business resource group at Edward Jones. We started in March, so we're trying to kind of work both ways, from the top down, also from the bottom up, so we can have advocates on both the scales there.
Ishita?
Hi, okay. I'm currently work at Flants Early Learning Center. So we're an early childhood center downtown, and I'm their sustainability specialist through AmeriCorps Vista. So I was wondering, when you and Abigail were kind of doing your research and stuff, did you see that other, like, outside of corporations, that they kind of have something similar to this, or like other nonprofits and stuff? Because I would love to kind of look into this and kind of create something like this for Flants.
Mhm.
Yeah, I believe anyone can use this. There's a lot of, when you look at the goals, there are lots of, there's a good explanation for what each goal the challenge that it addresses. And so, as Abigail stated, it's a global template. And so every company, every corporation, every business should be able to find themselves within some of these goals. So you look at the ones that, address the challenge of your nonprofit, and you can drill down into that.
Thank you. And I had another question, like a follow-up. What would you say your biggest challenge was when doing your research and kind of creating all this?
Go ahead, Abigail.
I'll say mine first and see what yours was, Lisa. I personally, for me, it was just narrowing our focus, right? So you could, in all those 17 goals, you can see something that applies to your organization, right? It just depends what you're looking at, but really trying to hone in on what are actually the 5 or 6 that could really make more of an impact for us at Edward Jones, and how does our work apply? And so I think, you don't want to spread yourself too thin. So trying to just really tailor that to your organization, but also hone in. I think that was my biggest challenge. So there's so much out there.
Yeah. Yeah, there's hundreds of lines of information in those in the UN SDG template, and it's a lot of research. But again, if you can start with where you are as an organization and what your organization is trying to accomplish, that's a good way to to high level eliminate process of elimination. But there's overlap as well, but I'd start high level and go from there.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Mhm.
I have a question. I think maybe the hosts as well as the speakers that are invited can probably answer this question. But I just became familiar with this organization like last week. I met with an old professor I had at WashU, and I was explaining to him that I graduated this May in mechanical engineering, and I'm kind of trying to get into environmental engineering more, and I don't know if I want to just go into grad school right away or try to work for a year or two. So I'm kind of like balancing both of those options, and he explained to me that I need to like get more involved in the city since I'm not from here and see what sorts of things they have out here. And he's like, you need to like volunteer, join a committee, join a board. So my question is for y'all, how did you sort of get involved with this organization? What did that look like in terms of what you were doing? Because I checked out the website and I was like, there's a lot to do.
Abigail, do you want to answer that question from your experience?
Sure. I started going to USGBC events when I was in college because I was going to a local university for interior design, and so I had a interest in sustainability and green architecture and such. So I just started to go to some meetings and events, and then eventually got to do work on the education committee. And that was probably 2015 or so that I started with the chapter, and kind of evolved from there. But yeah, it's great to meet people and to go to events, and put yourself out there a little bit and do get involved in a committee. That really helped to hone in on a focus as well. But yeah, it's been a great journey.
Yeah.
I'll just put in a quick plug that we do have a member social coming up in October 11th, and that would be a great way to meet a lot more individuals that are engaged, and that's an in-person event. So Freddie can probably follow up to share some information about that. But Lisa, did you want to jump in on anything?
So I was going to say from a business perspective, does the company that you work for, or you just graduated in May, are you working yet?
I'm not working.
Okay. So I was going to say that I was going to talk about the St. Louis Green Business Challenge, but to get, to meet others as well. But so yeah, I'm closer to retirement at this point. So but it's been a long journey. But like Abigail said, right, getting involved in some of the organizations, the Earth Day 365. Now, I know that you are in engineering and you're thinking about more about environmental, but there's a lot of organizations here in St. Louis that you can get involved in, and networking, right, and finding out where you, because Abigail you have your master's in what, sustainability?
Yeah, that was what I ended up doing. I went back for my master's in sustainability in 2016, I believe. So that really helped to try to direct my career more from design to sustainability, like where I am today. So
Yeah.
that helps as well.
Yeah.
Did you do that like locally, or where are you from?
It was at St. Louis University. I don't
Okay.
believe the program that I did particularly exists anymore, but there are a lot of other, programs and universities out there now that have sustainability or some kind of leadership in sustainability program. So you can look into that for sure.
Ishita, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I had another question. So one of your goals on here is quality education, and it says arts and education. Could you describe that a little bit more? Because I'm wondering, does Edward Jones partner with or give grants to smaller like schools or nonprofits to help them with their sustainable goals? Because we're a nonprofit, so we're always looking for donors and funders and just grants to help us with our initiatives.
Yeah, that is, so that's actually the Arts and Education. I think it's the foundation for St. Louis. So our associates, we have a campaign every year to give money to the Arts and Education Association. So they fund like Shakespeare in the Park, different stages, programs, so things in the St. Louis area for arts and education specifically. So that's where that refers to. So we give money to the arts and education organization, and then they distribute that money to programs and different places around St. Louis.
But separately, do you know if Edward Jones like has a grant program or something like that for sustainability initiatives?
We don't have a grant program specifically for sustainability initiatives. We have a philanthropic program that we can request grants through. But Edward Jones, since this is our current, the bubbles around the outside are our current efforts. Edward Jones is looking to share knowledge about financial education, right? Financial resilience, and helping, because this is where Edward Jones can help, is with financial education. So that is, if there's something that your organization is looking for assistance with or information on financial education, then that's Edward Jones' strong suit.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Abigail A., you have a question?
Yeah, thank you. I'm not sure if I missed this, and I apologize if I did. I was just also interested in knowing, how you decided which of the SDGs to focus on out of the 17.
Abigail?
Yeah, I mean, we did go through that a little bit. At just high level, though, there's a lot of research out there and papers and websites that you can look at through the UN to help hone in on what themes and metrics and indicators might be applicable to your organization. So Lisa and I sifted through all of that information and then came up with, this at the end. And this is the page we had shared. But there's a lot of different tools. I think Freddie put the link to the SDG Action Manager in the chat too. That was a really good questionnaire to start with. That if you just want to kind of try to get a baseline for your organization and where you're at and where you might need to work, what you might need to work on. And yeah, just really trying to just do a ton of research. And Lisa and I think we exhausted many resources. So it is a lot of reading and sifting, but there are resources out there such as these through the UN Global Compact that helps with businesses and business reporting on the SDGs.
Yeah. And Abigail was a taskmaster, man. Here's another one. Here's another one. But it is
You just
good
kept
to,
coming over with new stuff, you know. You just keep finding other things. So.
yeah, but it is good to have, someone else to work with, right? I mean, we were able to double team and approach it from both ends and our perspectives. And, there's a DEI element to all of this as well. So it's a lot of work, but it was a good learning process.
Did you ever do any, I guess, internal like surveys with Edward Jones, with, I guess, employees?
Not a survey specifically, Freddie, but we kept spreadsheet logs and things with all of our findings, and we ended up meeting with departments individually, right, to kind of talk through things individually. We haven't gotten to a larger survey yet, but more individual department focuses at this point. And it's a journey, right? We're going to keep expanding on this for years and years. So
yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, but we have a steering committee, also that the cross-functional team that we, showed all of our stuff to, and we were able to have conversations with them to help get us to a point where we could present this to the executive committee. And so once we did our part about with creating just let's start here. And then we had conversations with our steering committee to talk through some of what was important to them and efforts and initiatives for all these different departments. And then we were able to, compile that and take it to our executive committee for discussion, review, conversation, stuff like that. So, yeah, it's taken a good while.
And so is this like, are you able to implement this like nationally within the United States for Edward Jones, or are you still kind of focused locally, or have you been able to like even broadcast this globally?
We've shared it with, in that report, it's gone to our financial advisors, our clients, right? This is, it's out there for anyone who pulls up Edward Jones website.
Awesome.
But, yeah, but it's, it is, we're trying to, become one. We've got our branches and we have our home offices. And now, we're trying to make all of that one cohesive type operation. So we're trying to include, the plan is to include everyone to make sure that we're all on the same page moving forward.
I have another question. How do you guys measure your quantifiable goals and like track them? Because you're donating and you have all these partnerships with different organizations and stuff, but is there like a 5-year plan or 10-year plan of like, okay, we're trying to help people with financial education, but in these 10 years, we'll have helped these many people? Or I'm just wondering more about how you track your goals and measure your progress.
Yeah, I would just say we are working on that now. So the existing efforts you saw on that outer circle, those are things we have data for, right? We know how many dollars we give to arts and education, for example. And it's the same with a lot of these different organizations, what we exactly do with those. So we started with the data we have, and now we're working through where do we want to go with it. And then what other data do we need? What metrics do we want to establish? So we are actually in the throes of that now. So.
Cool.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, we are at our time. And I apologize for my intrusion of noise. I was actually trying to look up mapping. I was looking up some tools on connecting SDGs with like K through 12 work for Ashita, and I came across one of our videos, but it's not what I wanted it to be. So I'm gonna maybe follow up with you, Ashita, on that. So, and I want to thank Abigail and Lisa for your great presentation. I think this is a great way to kind of see how someone is really taking these and applying them to the day-to-day work that you're doing. And I don't know that we just don't see that enough, I would say. So it's a great opportunity to really dig in a little bit. So thanks everybody for joining us. I will repeat that we have a member social coming up in October, and we also have an emerging professionals happy hour next week that Freddie dropped into the chat. Those are both great ways to get connected with our members and others that are interested in sustainability. Really good networking. Both of those are in person. So we'd love to see folks there, and I hope that you all have a great weekend, and thanks again for the presentation.
Thanks for having
Thanks
us.
for having us.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Mhm.
I
Um,
love this purpose activation. Did
Yes.
you guys
Right.
come up, have that word purpose?
No,
Yeah. No.
they
It's
wrote
within the-
sustainability fit into purpose activation. Yeah, so
Mhm.
we lucked
Yeah.
out.
Awesome. Well, have a great rest of your day, everybody. Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much. And we'll
Thanks.
see you guys soon.
Have a good weekend.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.